right, we're back. Welcome to Roundtable 107. We got a great panel. We got MC in the ring joining us for the first time. Welcome. And we got UK's finest, my brother from overseas, Base the Kid. Always a pleasure.
Salutations. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And we have the mighty D-Style Boxing, the man who started it all. Big news. Got to talk about it. I'm going to be the negative Nelly. I don't like these deals in principle without a date, without a venue, without signed contracts. I'm always skeptical. We've been down this road before, but I got to go around the panel and ask everybody, what do you think of the news? Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis supposedly have agreed to fight in 2023. We're going to start with you, D-Style. What do you think here?
I mean, this is Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, and you're announcing it like you just ordered some McDonald's or something.
That's right. That's
I
right.
just don't get, this isn't some, a 12-piece, McNuggets with barbecue. This is a big fight. This is a big deal. And I know what you're going to say. Well, it's in principle, nothing to sign. So it's not quote unquote official. Here's what I'll say, a couple of things. And I told you this earlier. Both fighters have announced it. Both promotional outfits have announced it. The promoters, De La Hoya, you have even the president of Showtime announcing it. You have all these people that are involved on both sides. No one is denying it. They're both sharing the content. I think the intent is there more so than Crawford Spence was, because Spence never said it was done. Neither did Crawford. They never announced it. And more often than not, when both sides say, hey, it's a go, more often than not, it's a go, right? So I'm very optimistic about this. I can't wait for this fight. I think it's going to happen. Now, there is one obstacle. Tank Davis has a court date for something very serious in December, right? That's something that needs to happen. Will the court give a shit about this fight? Will the judge care? I have no idea, and I'm not going to pretend I'm going to know, right? But so, right, I mean, he could face jail time. I mean, it is what it is. But so that's pending, obviously. But if that court date clears and Tank Davis, doesn't need to be behind bars, this fight's going to happen for sure. And it might even help him out if he's on house arrest and he needs to train at home, stay at home, and he can't go out all the time. That might be a blessing in disguise for him when it comes to this fight.
You think that's going to help him training with an ankle bracelet on? What's wrong with you?
Well, you take the anchor, it's not a ball of chain. Like it's not like they don't have a low jack. Pounds.
It's going to have a low jack attached to his ankle.
He's going to be able to do his road work. He's going to be able to stay out of trouble more often than not. Stay, away from the wrong people, and I'm sure he'll get permission to train and go to the gym and all that good stuff. It's a good thing. It's going to help him out.
Come on.
By the way, is it true that's a catch weight?
136.
136. So it's what I want to know. Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's the cat that this dude fought at 140, right? And everybody was like, oh, Tank, he did something amazing. He fought Mario Barrios, right? And we have to give him all this credit, but he won't fight Ryan at 140. You figure that one out.
All right. MC, we're going to go to you. You were excited when you heard this news. You were like, wow, this is happening. This is happening. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Why are you so optimistic?
I think Ryan kind of made it clear that this is the fight that he wants, which is one of the things that I don't believe Spence made clear in the Crawford versus Spence negotiations. Ryan said, this is the only person I want. Other than that, Teofimo Lopez, which I think would have been a great fight, which another news came out on that, which we'll talk about that later. But Ryan, I think, made it clear. I think Oscar has been talking a lot lately, like saying, I want to do this. So he knows that Ryan would have came back and put him on blast if he didn't give him the fight that he wanted. So Oscar's doing his job like he's been going around saying. I think that, again, this is one of the biggest fights that we're probably going to have. This is going to be like a generational fight where parents are going to be able to watch this fight with their kids, and their kids are actually going to be interested in watching this fight. They might not see what they want at the end of that fight, and we don't know. I think this is a 50-50 chance fight, but I know I have a coworker, for example. He took his 18-year-old son to go watch Ryan in San Antonio because he knows who Ryan is. So their pay-per-view sales are going to be through the sky. I do believe that they said that it is going to be a combined pay-per-view event. So imagine the sales that they're going to have. I'm sure this is also going to make them global stars. The Zone actually has rights to distribute fights in other countries. That's not something that Showtime can do. If I'm not correct on that, you can correct me. But they're going to be able to sell in Australia. So whoever wins from this, let's say Tank wins, they're going to Showtime is going to get some of that money back somehow because of the marketing that they're going to be able to get. People love him in Mexico too. So this is a great match for both fighters. I think Tank is also tired of people going around saying he hasn't fought a good opponent. You know, Ryan and Tank's fans, like it's a big thing. It's like a lot of beef there. So I think people were just tired of hearing the fans. So I do think it's going to happen. I'm not saying I wouldn't be completely shocked if something happens where they pull out, but I don't think Ryan is going to pull the mental health card again. That's one thing that people are probably going to be saying. I don't think he's going to do that. And I think Tank will be able to train even if he gets some type of probation or whatever it is. And I think it will be good for him to get probation if it's going to keep him more focused. So I hope it happens. I'll be there for sure.
Do you think Canelo kind of co-signing for Tank, saying that Tank is one of his favorite fighters, you think that kind of ingratiated him to the Mexican fan base a little bit?
I think that Canelo just said that to get under Ryan's skin, in addition to him maybe saying what you're saying. But I think that there's a lot of stuff that happened in that camp with Ryan. And I think at first they kind of started talking and then they took it back and they're like, all right, we're not going to say anything. But I think that was kind of messed up for Canelo to do that to Ryan after they were stablemates. Like, that's pretty sad.
Okay.
So,
all right. Base, we've been down this road before, right? We've been like that battered girlfriend. We keep coming back. We keep coming back. No matter what happens, we keep coming back, right? So are we going to be the battered girlfriend and we're going to keep coming back? Are we going to get fooled this time, or is this fight really happening?
I mean, I don't know if that's the right analogy to be using, but yeah.
Well, you know how it is, man. We don't hold back on this channel, man. We're not
That's
afraid.
true. That's true.
How
I keep
not
forgetting.
PC.
I'm the diplomatic one over here. No, do you know what? I think the fight will happen. Because let's be honest, Showtime need help right now. And to have Ryan Garcia on your channel or on your platform promoting whatever at this point with the following that he has, it's nothing but a positive for them. Obviously, the only thing they didn't want to have was to have the Zone involved in any way, shape, or form. But I guess, yeah, after some of the numbers their recent events have been putting up, yeah, maybe they think this is the one. So provided Tank is okay with whatever run out he has in January, yeah, I definitely do see it happening. I can't see anything really getting in the way of this one, to be totally honest.
Got you. Shout out to D-Style Boxing. He says from Lion Ryan to King Ryan. We'll see. Lukey, welcome, man. Nice to have you aboard. Thanks for joining us. I've been a little skeptical on this since I heard the news. You know, I'm one of the Debbie Downers here. I'm jaded as a boxing fan because we've been down this road several times. We have these agreements and these deals in principle, the framework of a deal. We hear all these, terms in the sport of boxing. Should we be excited about this news? Lukey.
Okay, I didn't hear my name called, so I was being a
sorry.
very respectful person.
I apologize.
Beeb, thanks for no, don't apologize. It's an honor to be on your show. Shout out my man D Styles. I'm nervous about this fight because is Hector Luis Garcia the guy that's fighting Tank on January 7th? Because if that's the fight that's happening, that's a really tough fight, right? And then we also have Tank having a court date at December 12th. We got to see how that goes. I'm excited about the potential idea of this fight, but I'm also such an old school boxing person. I don't put the cart before the horse. I want to see the fights that are supposed to happen and the accomplishments currently. So he has to get through court and he has to do January 7th. And then let's get to Ryan Garcia. Because how many times did we hear about Juan Ma versus Gamboa? And then all of a sudden that falls apart. How many times did we hear about Sergey Kovalev and Adonis Stevenson? And then that fell apart. Riddick Bowe versus Lennox Lewis. So I'm very excited at the idea that these two sides are coming together. And if this does happen, this is going to be like a summer blockbuster for boxing fans.
Do you like the idea of the tune-up for Tank Davis on January 7th?
I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Isn't this what the boxing gods always do? Give us a good fight and then the guy loses? Like this is the formula of how
You think that they're really gonna throw him in there with someone like Hector Garcia?
That's the rumor I'm hearing, is that Hector Garcia might be the guy.
Yeah, it's a bad move. It's a bad move. I'm not happy about it either. Well, like I said, I'm going to cross my fingers. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. But like I said, we've been down this road several times, as you so eloquently put, Lukey. So let's move on to the next topic. Montana Love got disqualified against Stevie Spark. And, there's a lot of debate online on whether or not he should have been disqualified or not. But I want to ask a two-part question here. Obviously, the first question is, should he have been disqualified? You guys agree with the disqualification? And has Montana Love been overhyped? Is he as good as advertised, or was he being pushed? And just wasn't able to live up to the potential. We're going to start with you, Base. What did you think of the whole situation with Stevie Spark? Do you think he should have been disqualified? And what do you think Montana Love as a potential force in the sport of boxing?
Okay, so first part of the question, should he have been disqualified? I can't argue with disqualification because ultimately, like, we saw what happened. We saw that he was visibly trying to hurt Stevie. Whether he was actually trying to push him over the ropes or not, I don't believe so. But he was putting his forearm in his face, probably trying to extend his neck or, maybe injure him in that sense, choke him or whatever. But once obviously Stevie Spark's gone over the ropes, the referee's got a choice to make. I think he acted a bit rash. Like, yes, the disqualification could have happened, but considering the fact that Stevie Spark wasn't injured, didn't buckle his ankle, wasn't holding his shoulder or anything, the ref maybe could have said, all right, couple points off, let's carry on. Bearing in mind, I don't think and the only reason I can probably think that he did throw the disqualification in is because the ringside doctor said, oh, well, let's give it another minute based on the cut over the eye. So assuming that he was probably looking to possibly stop it due to the cut at some point anyway. So yeah, there could have been some pre-thought and malice in what Montana Love did, but I still don't think it should have warranted an immediate disqualification. I think some time should have took place to decide whether or not that was how it should have transpired. The second part of the question, is he overhyped? I mean, I can't really say yes, he is, because it's not like, oh, he's talked about, oh, he's the greatest, he's the next big thing at 140. He's just literally a guy that has been on a couple of cards and they was giving him a card in his hometown because it's a market they haven't really tapped into at this point. And want to see, what kind of following he's got in his own town. Can they put on events? Is that another place that's viable? Because that's one thing Matchroom have done since they've gone to the US. Like, they've gone to, Rhode Island, they've gone to Cleveland, they've gone to all of these places that, because they're not big in America, like they're almost doing the circuit territory. They're trying to see which markets they can build followings in, and put up decent shows, do decent numbers. So I just think it was one of those ones, to be totally honest. I think he's a good fighter. I don't think he's like an elite. I don't think he's in the upper echelon. That being said, maybe they also look at him a bit like an Adrian Broner from the past, like someone that can actually, can get a following, you can sell, you can make a name off. He's eccentric. He dresses a certain way, that he's got the dog that he brings out. Like, he's a talking point. And I think that's what they was looking at. They're looking at characters in the sport to help sell, because we need more characters in boxing. And I think that's his play. He's a good boxer who's got good charisma, who, can sell some tickets, it looks like, in his hometown. So it just made sense in that way. But I think, I don't see him being like, this dominant, undisputed, 140-pound guy.
Okay. MC, what were your thoughts on the disqualification? Do you think it was warranted? And what do you think of Montana Love as a fighter?
Clearly warranted. First of all, he should have not done that. It was, thankfully, nothing happened to Spark, but he could have gotten hurt and could have damaged his career. So he should have not done that. I also found it so disrespectful for Eddie Hearns and Montana Love to be treating that ref like that after the ref was just doing his job. So, and maybe, yes, he wasn't physically hurt, but he was probably mentally shook. So imagine, you're doing great, you're winning the fight in the other guy's hometown, and then this guy comes and throws you off the ring. What are you gonna think after that? No matter what I do, I'm never gonna win this fight. They're probably gonna flip the scorecard and I might lose. Now, I understand that there was gonna be a stoppage with the doctor, but at the end of the day, that even made it more obvious that he knew what he was doing, because instead of taking an L, he took a DQ. Is that any better? No, I don't think so. So, yeah. And then the other, now, I do think he's eccentric. If you saw the press conference, he was talking, he's had some beef going on with Hutchinson, right? So I think that he's gonna, first, they talked about a rematch right on the ring. I don't think Sparks should give him a rematch. Now, if you do want a rematch, you need to go back to Australia and fight me over there, because I just went to your hometown. So I think maybe that's how the fight should happen. If he wins, he'll get some Australian fans, Montana Love. But if not, then that just shows that he wasn't at the level, even though this fight was stopped through a DQ. So, not to mention, Montana Love came into the scene at 140 when the 40 weight class wasn't as stacked as it is now. You have Ryan Garcia possibly eventually fighting at 140. You have Tank now also fighting at 140. Now you have the other guy, Alberto Puento, I think that's his name, the Dominican that just won that belt recently with Showtime. You have Regis back in the picture. You have Josh Taylor. So can he really compete with those guys? I'm not sure he can.
All those people, so apart from Ryan and possibly Tank, all those people were already at 140 when Montana Love was competing. Like, they was all there. It's not like, he's just joined and all of a sudden that it's just been populated. They was all there previously.
What's his record right now?
Huh?
What's Montana's Love record? Let's just say he's got, 15 fights?
It's not 19 1-1. So
this was probably gonna take him up to that level to eventually be able to contend for a belt or to be top, fight to be the contender spot. And he wasn't able to. I don't know who Spark was before this fight. I had never seen a fight of him, and I watch a lot of the undercards. So I don't really think that, maybe he didn't even take this fight serious. I don't know. A lot of pressure fighting at home sometimes too.
Yeah, well, Montana Love was top 5 in every governing body across the. I know obviously he's got wins over former champions. Yes, at slightly different weights, but he was definitely on his route to getting a title shot, whether it was a vacant or whatever. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm just saying the division was always stacked. 140 is always a stacked division. It's not like, he got a shock with new people coming in. And I don't really think he would have been scared of a Ryan Garcia or a Tank Davis.
I don't think he's scared. I never said that, but I think sometimes you're just not at that level, unfortunately. And now that doesn't mean that he can go back and work on his craft and all that, but that weight class is getting harder by the minute. Devin Haney might go up there next year.
Yeah. That division's only going to get better. It's going to get tougher, not easier. I agree with that. Lukey, what are your thoughts on the whole Montana Love situation? What do you think of him as a fighter, man?
Well, I think I'd like to start with a caveat. Prentice Brewer is a close friend of mine, and Montana Love posted a lot of disrespectful stuff on Instagram, sparring footage, late footage of Prentice. So it's whenever I have to share my opinion on Montana Love, I want to do that to explain that if anything comes in a certain tone, I want to explain a bias because Prentice Brewer is a close friend of mine. So that's the lens I look at. I think that the fight when he fought Stevie Spark, it should have been over in the corner when the doctor talked to him because he said he couldn't see. He made he made the verbal phrase that fighters say when the fight needs to be waved off. And then from that moment, he engaged in a grapple-like maneuver, and that led to a very weird result where Stevie Spark is out of the ring. I mean, the result is justified because now you're putting it in the hand of the referee. I think that where he sat in the division, he was a number 12 to number 15 guy in terms of talent in the division. In terms of world rankings, he was a win away or maybe 2 wins away from competing for a world title. I just think that we've seen this story before.
Lost the sound.
Broner had more talent than Montana Love. So Montana Love has a lot of outside distractions. And I think that played into this loss because this was in Cleveland. If you listen to a lot of the pre-fight buildup, a lot of what he was talking about was how good he looks, about the city, about this and that. Felt like he was thinking about a lot of obligations. He posted a clip on his IG of him getting his eye sewed up. And he goes, well, I got to get my back end money. I got to go to this nightclub. His focus doesn't seem solely on prize fighting. And as you get to the top, it's like getting a PhD in a university. The further you get in academia, the more narrow your focus has to be. To be a world champion, you can't be that interesting. You have to narrow your focus. I don't see Montana Love having that tunnel vision to be able to compete at the highest level against a Regis Prograis, because I think Regis hones in much more than a Montana Love.
Yeah, gotcha. D, what did you think of the whole situation with Montana Love and Stevie Spark?
I mean, Montana Love won the Royal Rumble. Like, he's on his way to WrestleMania to wrestle Roman Reigns. He's going to headline the granddaddy of them all. You guys are like, oh, he did. No, look, in all seriousness, I've rewatched the fight several times, actually. And like, the more I watch the fight, like, the worse it looks for Montana Love. And I'm not talking about the out of the ring. I'm talking about the whole fight in its entirety, right? Because it was a fight I overlooked, if I'm honest, and it was a fight that I was just looking at all the circumstantial evidence. It's in Cleveland. No one's heard, at least over here, no one's heard about the Spark guy from Australia. Obviously, it's a homecoming for him. So management wants Love to look good, and I'm sure their matchmakers set it up that way. But sometimes there's things that you don't see on film, and there's things that you cannot anticipate until a fighter's in that moment, right? And Stevie Spark, first of all, didn't get the memo that he was going to lay down. He didn't get the memo that he was there to just be an opponent. He came to win. And I think that it shouldn't, but that threw like Love off his game. It was almost like why is this guy punching me back? He was almost like in shock that this was happening to him in the middle of the fight. And like, you can't react that way when you get hit with the right hand. You can't start doing everything but like defending yourself or like, he doesn't stay calm in the pocket under fire. And that's a bad sign. I don't know if that's something that could be coached like into him. I don't think that's something that could be fixed, quite frankly. I feel like he would get hit. He would overreact to everything. That was only giving Spark, all this confidence. When he would hit Spark, look, punches hurt. I'm sure they hurt Spark, but guess what? Spark kept focused. He didn't panic. He didn't panic under the fire. He kept coming after him. All right. Montana Love could tell me all day, oh, I'm not. Anytime a fighter says these things, I don't want to make excuses, but, or they complain about everything that happened in the fight. Oh, he was elbowing me. He was doing Muay Thai and MMA on me. But I'm not complaining, though. Anytime a fighter does that, you're complaining. Okay? You can't complain about it and then add, but I'm not complaining, because obviously you're complaining. And that's a bad sign, dude. You're not in the amateurs anymore. Okay? In the pros, you're going to get roughed up. Lomachenko learned that in his second pro fight, okay, when he got in the ring with Salido. You're going to get roughed up. They're going to rough you up in there. Well, like, people will complain about Porter. Porter will rough guys up, right? The guys that knew how to deal with it, Brooke, Spence, Crawford, they beat him. Okay, you got to know how to deal with the roughhousing. You got to know how to deal with guys that bring it that way. There's going to be guys that are not as talented as you, not as fast as you, okay, and they're going to try to make it a back alley brawl. And if you're not ready to go to that back alley, you ain't going to win at the top level, because at the top level, everybody's tough. At the top level, everyone knows how to react under fire. If you can't pass that test at this level, you're done. Because everything I saw on film, I said, man, this dude's going to have a hard time with the speed of Love. Love's going to counter the shit out of him. But I didn't anticipate how he was going to panic. And that's what he did. And at the end of the day, you look at a doctor and use the first words out of your mouth is, I can't see. And I'm reading your demeanor. Okay? The way you're looking around, like you want to weigh out. Because it's in our nature. Fight or flight is in our nature, all of us. You don't want to show flight in that ring. It's a bad sign, right? So now, do I think he picked them up like from the ankle and tossed them over the ring? No, I don't think that's what he did. But his action led to it. Okay, so that's his anger, his panic led to Spark being tossed out of the ring. That's what led to it. Right? His action still caused it. Everything's, cause and effect. Your cause had that effect. I do think, from what I saw, and I invite everybody to see it, Stevie was on his way over. And I think he was going to fall on his head. Okay? But he kind of leaped a little bit. Like he kind of leaped at the tail end of it to land on his feet. It was a hell of a landing, superhero landing. He got back in the ring. And one more thing. I know people are saying, hey, Stevie wanted to keep fighting, so why did they let it go? Here's why, okay? A lot of foreign fighters have reservations about fighting over here, okay, because they're not going to be given a fair shake, because they're not going to be treated right. I think it sends a good message, at least the Ohio Commission anyway. This sends a good message to all fighters. If you fight over here, you're going to get a fair shake. If somebody tries to toss you out of the ring or something like that, or they do something that warrants a disqualification, you're going to get disqualified. Okay? Even if it's the American fighter that does it, he will get disqualified. Because let me just tell you this right now. If this was a UK fighter, all right, and the same thing happens, I don't know if they disqualify him. I don't know if that ref, when Eddie Hearn stands up and points at him, I don't know if that ref will continue the fight. There's no way to know. It's a hypothetical, but we got to enforce the rules. The rules are the rules, and we need to enforce them. That's all I got.
You think if Steve Spark doesn't kind of do what he did, you think he would have landed on his head or his back or something?
I think he was going to land on his head. So when people say, "Oh, but he jumped over," he had no choice at that point. The momentum was sending him over the ropes. So he had two choices: fall on your head, or kind of do the landing. You know what I mean? So
because he kind of pulled the rope with his other arm and used that rope to kind of propel himself over, so he can stabilize himself to flip over and land on his feet.
Yeah. So people that say, "Oh, well, he threw himself over," I mean, they're not wrong, but he did it when he had no choice but to do it.
Because his feet were off the ground at that point in time, and in order to stabilize himself, we
don't control gravity, but if we could hold on to something like the rope, we could have some control over that. So it was a great landing, man. Good superhero landing.
Yeah.
He got him a belt, so he's good now.
He looked like Nightcrawler from the X-Men doing a flip. But let's go to the main event, man. Janibek takes on Denzel Bentley. I didn't know much about Denzel Bentley. He's a UK fighter, but I'm gonna have to probably defer to you on this one. But did Janibek have an off night, or was Denzel Bentley just really that good? Because I think Janibek did some good things in there. I thought he finished the fight strong. I thought Denzel Bentley made an adjustment, and I think that forced Janibek to make his adjustment as well. And I think he did that. I thought he won the fight 8-4, but a lot of people were expecting an early KO from Janibek. It didn't happen, and people are a little bit surprised. And some are even saying that maybe he's not as good as advertised. What say you, Base?
You know what? I mean, there's two ways that you can look at this. Like, some people are looking at, Janibek's a hype job. He wasn't as good as people claimed, or the moniker. He had 5 straight knockouts. But who were they against? It's that narrative. Or there's the Denzel Bentley was better than advertised based on obviously what people had seen with the Felix Cash defeat, getting knocked out in the 3rd round.
Yeah, Cash waxed him.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Might be like a 40-60, 60-40, maybe even a 65-35. Ultimately, 2 things happened. Number one, Denzel came in with a game plan of not to, take too much too early. So to maybe try and weather the storm, to be more defensively responsible than he's ever been previously, because there's a reputation here and he's wary of that reputation. He didn't engage that much in the first 4 rounds. So that in itself, Janibek's now got to look for openings, which normally he doesn't have to look for. They create themselves. So there's that part. And then obviously being on the front foot, trying to sort of chase the fight and sort of chase certain rallies, then maybe that slowed him down a bit. Denzel then was able to make certain adjustments to make it a lot more competitive. And ultimately, from every interview he's had, he never had any idea of I'm gonna outwork this guy, or I'm gonna beat this guy on points. His whole thing was Denzel Bentley by KO, because clearly to him, he also felt that's the only way he can win this fight. So trying to win round after round was not going to work in his favor anyway. So he then, after he stopped trying to, or after he stopped getting fainted by the foot feints and sort of reacting to those and having that spike his adrenaline, when he started actually moving onto the front foot, he had a bit more success. Ultimately, it wasn't good enough because Janibek, as you said, Denzel made an adjustment. Janibek made an adjustment. You can't knock out everyone. And one of the things with Denzel is he reacts to punches. You can tell when you've got him hurt, but the difference is, unless you're someone like Felix Cash, who will throw punch after punch after punch in a salvo and not give you a moment to recover from that initial shock, then you're not going to beat him, because of his frame, that is the way that he's sort of like so wiry. He's able to sort of almost maneuver himself into a safe position. And someone like Janibek, who relies, or he's been relying on that one punch, that sort of that one punch here, one punch there to get you out, going for that one punch knockout power, he's going to be able to survive that and tie up and get out of the way and escape and evade. And that's basically what he done in the first part of the fight, and then again right at the end in the 12th round when he was visibly hurt on numerous occasions. But yeah, ultimately he came with a game plan that worked to last out the fight, and he came better than advertised, because he is better than the 3rd round KO would have you believe. And the fact, obviously, after having that KO, he's then gotten better after that, and has tucked up his defense a bit more. He's had 3 decent domestic level fights, so he never had anything that would prepare him for this world level, to be fair. But he's had learning and progress fights since then. He's just gotten better after the defeat, and that's literally what happened.
Gotcha. Yeah, I forgot about that Felix Cash fight. Was that on DAZN or something like that, or was that
BT?
That was
Felix
BT,
Cash
right?
He was a Sky and Matchroom guy, and there was a
Okay.
purse bid, so he went over to BT and beat
Yeah.
Denzel on his own platform.
I've seen Cash before a couple times on undercards on DAZN. He's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. Yeah, Lukey, what did you think of Janibek, man? Do you think people are being too hard on him?
I mean, he's a young pro. He's a young pro. I mean, like when he's 22-0, he'll probably be a really, really good fighter. It's just I feel like because middleweight's the no man's land, like the most relevant fighter in this division is Gennady Golovkin at 40 years old. He took the most relevant fight. You look at most of these guys, they're not even fighting and they're not fighting each other. Carlos Adami's had a fantastic year just by being active. This is a division that doesn't have a ton of traction. So for me, it was hard to separate the Felix Cash from performance from what Janibek did. I know that's, and then taking it a step further, Felix Cash fought a guy named, I want to say Magomedov or in his last fight. And he looked terrible. So that's my lasting image of Felix Cash. He stopped Denzel Bentley and then he had a really hard fight. Janibek, I guess for me I think he's a developing future dominant champion, but he's being marketed as a boogeyman. And that's the problem with marketing is I need to see the boogeyman if that's where the marketing is. So my expectation was utter domination. And what I saw was a world-class fighter find a way to win a rather even and competitively matched fight. And that was kind of the disconnect for me.
Well, you mentioned the boogeyman, and you're not the only one to say that. But does he have to be the boogeyman? Like he was never the self-proclaimed boogeyman. These were things that people were saying about him, mainly because of Andre not wanting to fight him, and because I think it was just Andre decided, yeah, hey, I'm going to vacate the title and not fight him, and automatically that label was put on him. So do you think it's even fair to him because he never went around, pumping out his chest and banging on his chest saying I'm the baddest man on the planet,
Beeb, I just think it's marketing. I think that this guy is not going to be the best English language interview. And it's like, how can you find a way to get people compelled? So I don't think it's anyone's issue, right? I think people are just finding a way. How can you get a talented fighter to get a lot of people that want to follow him? And I think the unfortunate thing for him is being from Kazakhstan, people are going to always compare him to Gennady Golovkin. He's not Golovkin. He's more like a Victor Postol. People might giggle and say like, oh, Victor Postol is not all that great. Victor Postol is a world-class fighter who has very formidable wins on his record. Victor Postol, many kids starting in the boxing gym right now, if they turn into Victor Postol, that is a success. And that is the problem with boxing is a lot of people would downplay what a Victor Postol type career is. That's a fantastic career. I see Janibek more as in the realm of a Victor Postol in terms of what he brings to the ring, the way he sets traps, his use of distance management. So I see a guy who's going to be more of like a mental chess match with people. I just think that we don't have a very deep middleweight division where guys aren't fighting each other. So people are trying to fill the void with him. Gotcha.
Good analysis. Boxing, thank you so much. She says, thoughts on Andrew Tate versus Jake Paul. The Big G. I don't know. That fight may happen. There's a lot of money in that, man. The Big G. I'm a big Andrew Tate fan, man, so I hope it happens. MC, what are your thoughts on Janibek? Were you impressed or were you a little bit disappointed in his performance?
I've never really been high on him, so I will have to say that it was just another fight for me from him. I think, like you guys all mentioned, the 160 weight class is a weird weight division. There's so much going on in there. You have Jermall, who hasn't fought in. Somebody did a countdown today on Twitter. He hasn't fought in like 500 and something days, and I mean he's been going through stuff, right? And I understand that. So even though during the WBC they brought him up and they said we're gonna call him up, we're gonna give him a few weeks, I think, for him to figure it out if he's going to come back and fight. So I think that's good. Carlos Adames, I believe, was there at the WBC. So he made a case, I think, to be the top. They were actually kind of going to give him the belt, right? And then he said, nah, I don't want it. I actually want to fight for it. So they didn't raise him up. They didn't raise him up. And I hope he gets that fight with Charlo or even Janibek, whoever. But I wasn't really impressed with him. Like you said, I do think Bentley was a great opponent. I think that's what made it hard. But if you can't rise up with an opponent who we didn't think or people didn't believe he was going to do a good job, then what are you going to do with a champion later on who you're going to be trying to unify or something like that, right? So I think, like you said, he's still young, I think, too. So maybe he's got a little bit more to learn. He's got a lot of pressure on him. We had Triple G from that country. Like, people love Triple G. He's one of my favorite fighters for a long time. So I feel that the pressure is on him. But yes, he's not Triple G. And I'm glad ESPN gave him a spot and showcase his fight. So I think that's a good thing for him and possibly for the 160. I hope it helps the 160 and maybe other people want to get up there and start fighting for it, you know? So.
Gotcha. D-Style, we talked about this offline a little bit, and I really liked your analysis. You made some great points. Just share it with everybody what your thoughts on this was.
Well, look, time is relative. I want everyone to think of two fights, okay? It's the two same fighters, right? First fight in the rematch. Think of Paul Williams against Carlos Quintana. Just think about it for a moment. Think about the first fight and look at what happened. And think about the second fight and look at what happened. Okay? If the scenario in the first fight happened, in the second fight happened first, we don't get a rematch. And you will never be able to convince anybody or no one that Carlos Quintana was capable of outboxing Paul Williams. What do you mean he could outbox him? He knocked him out in one round. Are you stupid? That dude ain't shit, right? So we need to put perspective on everything. Bentley has been branded like they brand cows and shit. Oh, he got knocked out in the third round. Boom. Psst. That's what you are. You're an opponent. You're supposed to get knocked out early. That's who you are for the rest of your life. And if he performs better than that, he's better than he was on what could have been an off night, could have just been what happens in boxing. Sometimes fighters just get caught. They get caught with a good shot and they don't recover, or it's just a different dynamic. It changes everything, right? Like one punch could change the course of everything. Let me give you an example of another fight. We all know about the 4 awesome fights that Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao had. Now, let's go back to the first fight, the first round. If the referee makes a judgment call, kid, you're getting battered around. You've been knocked down 3 times. We're waving this off, okay? Marquez probably, complains. Pacquiao puts his arms in the air, and guess what? We don't get a second fight. There's no third fight. There's no fourth fight with a knockout. Marquez is just known as the dude that was knocked out in the first round and stopped by Manny Pacquiao. Oh, but I'm telling you, he would have came back and he would have won the other. You would have been told you're stupid. Then you see he was dominated and dropped 3 times. What are you talking about? Right? We cannot just label fighters what they are in their worst moments. And maybe don't label them by their best moments. But take something in the middle. Take more data than that. Right? Why does it have to be that Janibek overlooked them, or that Janibek is overrated, or that Janibek ain't shit? Maybe Bentley knew that this was a big opportunity for him. Maybe he trained harder than he ever has, and he knew he needed to show that he was more than what people thought of him, right? Fighters can rise to the occasion. Fighters can have better performances than they usually do, right? And I think that's what this was. But as boxing fans, we're jaded, we're negative, the glass is always half empty. Let's look for a reason to complain and just shit on these fighters. It's not Bentley overperformed or did better than, maybe he was better than I expected. No, Janibek ain't shit, and he's less than what I expected, right? And I'll take you back to this, and people could say what they want, but look, Kassim Umar was washed up by the time he got in the ring with Triple G. He was not the same Kassim Umar anymore. In fact, he was 2-3 in the last 5 fights. I could actually say he was 2-4, right, in his last 6. And he gave Gennady Golovkin all he could handle in that fight. Was landing all types of combinations. I mean, he was making him look ordinary. And then after that, he went on to have a losing streak. But my point is, that night, Kassim Umar decided, Kassim the Dream, maybe I have one more left in me. Maybe this night I'm going to bring back the old Kasimuma, right? Because he may not be as good as he once was, but he's good once as he ever was, right? And that's the fighters do that sometimes. But and yes, I saw that from a country song, but still, it's still valid. Either way, glass half full, people. Okay, why do you have to throw these fighters away? And who said Janibek needs to be the next Triple G? Maybe he could just be the first Janibek, right? And it's boxing's a journey. Let's follow the journey. Stop looking at the destination. This ain't the Terminator movies, okay? Stop looking for John Connor, the savior of boxing in the future. Like, stop looking at the future. Just follow the journey, okay? He'll get back in the ring, and we're gonna see how he does in his next fight, right? Fighters get better. And one more thing. This goes to everybody listening and everybody on the panel. What do you do for a living? Were you always as good? Did you improve or did you not improve at what you do? Were all your work days like you did excellent? You never had a day where like, man, I was off on my game today. Shit, I suck today, right? Fighters have the same thing happens to fighters. Sometimes they have an off night and they get knocked out when they shouldn't have got knocked out. Maybe they had personal problems, whatever it is. But when they put it all together, any fighter can be dangerous. So that's what I got.
Gotcha. So we got to fight this Saturday. It's not a busy week, but we have we got Jaime Munguia versus Gonzalo Coria here, and if he gets past Coria, he's going to be the mandatory for Janibek. After this performance that Janibek just had against Bentley, do you think that Munguia will finally step in the ring and get a title shot against him? Do you think he'll be that guy to take on the quote unquote boogeyman? Or we'll start with you, Base. What do you think?
This is what I think. Look, Jaime Munguia he's a waste of space at this point.
Whoa!
I don't think this particular win, loss, bad performance, average performance, good adjustment performance is going to change anything in that trajectory. I just don't think that the whole GDP have enough people where they want to risk one of their main stars. The whole Ryan Garcia thing, they don't really have a choice. Jaime Munguia, he's been at 160 for what, 2.5 years now, almost coming up to 3 years. He's not fought one live opponent up there. I don't think this is going to change their mind. He was a mandatory before this fight. I think he's going to be the mandatory after. He's just going to be in that number one spot and he's just going to stay there. Like that's literally all I think about Munguia.
Gotcha. MC, what do you think of your man Munguia? Is he going to finally step up and take on a challenge and fight for the title if he wins on Saturday?
I don't know if you can tell, but I obviously have an accent, right? I am from Mexico. I moved to America when I was 9 years old. And I do watch Mexican fighters or support Mexican fighters, but I'm right with you. Munguia, I'm sorry, but your record is 40-0, and you still haven't fought for a world title. That's crazy to me. If you were to look at other fighters like Lomachenko, you guys talked about earlier, they all have fought. Even Haney, he fought for his first belt after maybe 10 to 15 fights, right? No more than 20. This guy has almost 40 fights and he still is not a world champion. That goes to show you possibly the type of talent that he's fighting. Maybe his company's scared of putting him up against a fight that they might feel he might not win. I did watch one of the fights that happened in Monterrey, I believe almost 2 to 3 years ago, right? And I don't think he won that fight, and they still gave him the fight. So that was kind of when I was turned off, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to watch him. I did watch some tape yesterday. I watched not his last fight, but the second to last fight, and he has improved. Now, has he improved because of the level of competition that he's fighting? Maybe that's why. Have they raised the level of his level of competition to where you can actually measure if he's improving or not? They really haven't done that. So my concern is that they're keeping him in this very secluded path where eventually he's going to have to fight a world champion and he might not be able to win. Now, I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep this thing going to where he's not fighting his mandatories. So, and I do think the chat saying that Charlo doesn't get any heat. I think Charlo does get a lot of heat. I think that Munguia also gets a lot of heat. He's not that fully, not a lot of people in Mexico, I think, support him in comparison to like someone like Isaac Cruz. And guess what? Isaac Cruz already has a loss. But the way that he went out against Tank was something to be proud of. Even Tank said it. A star was born tonight. So why doesn't Munguia take the risk? Like you said earlier, it's okay if he doesn't win. Zurdo took the risk with Bivol. So why are they not doing that for him? Maybe they don't want to take another L. They've already taken an L with Zurdo recently, and now another one. I don't know. But I think Munguia has improved, and I think a fight with him against Janibek will be a 50-50, to be honest with you.
Wow. Okay. D-Star,
The
what is
power
up
that
with-
he has.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. D-Star, what's up with your man, Jaime Munguia, man?
I mean, 40 have tried, 40 have failed, 10 more, and he's the GOAT. I mean, look, he gets a 51-0. He's the greatest from what I hear. That makes you the best of all time. You know what I mean? Like the best right now. But in all seriousness, for all the flack that like Zurdo got, but Zurdo was actually fighting pretty good opposition. Zurdo was a former world champion. Like, I mean, Munguia, gee, and people are saying training wheels. They ain't on training wheel. He's still on the tricycle thing. You know what I mean? Like he ain't even on training wheels yet. Okay, like this is crazy, bro. I don't even know the dude he's fighting, bro. Corey, I think I know him, but I'm not sure. But here's the thing. He didn't win that Dennis Hogan fight. He didn't win the fight. He lost that fight. Okay? And I don't know, man. Like this guy, look, when he beat Saddam Ali, I thought he was coming off that big win over Miguel Cotto. Like I thought, okay, man, maybe we got something with this kid. But then Golden Boy, they lost the plot with this guy. Like they lost the plot. Like they don't even know what they have. And I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. Jaime Munguia is never going to be the top pound for pound. He's never going to be considered the best fighter in the world. And that's not what you got with Jaime Munguia. You know what you got with Jaime Munguia? You got a Mexican warrior. You know what you got? You got an action fighter. Don't worry about wins and losses with him. Put him in good fights, and people will show up to watch him. Just like they showed up to watch Arturo Gatti. Just like they showed up to watch a lot of Mexican fighters that weren't, not all Mexican fighters were Salvador Sanchez and Julio Cesar Chavez. Okay? People showed up to watch Chavez's loser son because he was in good fights. Okay? All you got to do is give them good fights and they'll show up. And if they know, man, he has a shot at the upset, they'll show up and they will support. That's all you got to do with Jaime Munguia. To stop protecting him. What are you protecting? There's nothing to protect. No one's going to stop watching him if he loses. Nobody. We know he already lost against Dennis Hogan. He got booed in Monterrey. Why is the Irish fighter getting booed over there? I'm sorry. Why was the Irish fighter getting cheered and he was getting booed? Because they know he lost that fight. But they're protecting him like they got some holy grail, like this secret sauce that they're waiting for him to all of a sudden become Eric Morales. Because why? Because Eric Morales is training him? He's going to be Eric Morales? That's not how it works. If that was the case, you could just get Floyd to train somebody and they'll become the next Floyd Mayweather. That's not how it works. This isn't Rocky 3. You don't train somebody your style and they're as good as you. It's not how it works. Okay? In real life, Rocky will never be able to box like Apollo Creed, especially not after one training camp. All right? Just put him in the ring. Just for dear God, you got nothing to lose. Put him in the ring with Janibek. If he wins, he's a world champion. If he loses, it's going to be a good fight. And people they're going to keep wanting to watch him. They lost the plot, bro. Like, I don't know what Golden Boy is protecting this guy for. And they don't make sense to me. Like the otro Zurdo in there with Bivol. Yeah, we believe in you. Go. You know, but Munguia, like they don't trust him with anybody. This shit's crazy. What are they protecting? Well, maybe there's something Oscar knows that even we don't know. Like maybe he gets beat up in sparring when he steps up. I have no idea, but there's something up with the way they're protecting him.
It's weird. No, sorry. You're right, because if you think about it, remember he's fought Takeshi Inui at 154. He fought Liam Smith at 154. Sadam Ali, like he's got decent wins on his record at 154. He was a champ at 154. WBO, cool, but why would you now, after 6 fights and almost 3 years, still be ducking mandatory spots for the WBC and the WBO title? Makes no sense.
And how do you duck the man? Like, how do you duck your way to the top? Like I'm climbing the mountain, but I'm just gonna stay here and camp for a while.
It's like they're
here, Munguia versus Charlo get ordered like sometime earlier this year, and then it never happened, right? Like they said that they were able to get out of it because Charlo had already a fight with the guy. Yes, he was gonna fight some like I don't remember what part of Europe he was from, but it was a European guy that he was going to be fighting.
Yeah.
What's an easier sell? Like just to put this out there to everybody, for the chat and everybody in the panel. What's an easier sell? Jaime Munguia, the most exciting boxer in the sport, or Jaime Munguia, the best pound for pound? What's the easier sell? Like, it's common sense.
We'll take exciting.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Lukey, what am I missing here, man? What's the plot for Jaime Munguia?
Well, I mean, Jaime Munguia is like, I'm a big fan of Houdini and all these old school guys, and he's kind of like Houdini, a magic trick. He went from a world champion to a prospect in terms of his opponents. He went from being a world title fighter all the way back down to fighting guys. Look, everyone on this panel watches boxing week in, week out. We watch the undercards. We're about as hardcore as it gets. We have no clue who he's fighting. That tells you something. Like, everyone on this panel lives, breathes, and dies boxing. We have no clue who this human being is, but we hope it means to something, because Munguia's interesting. Munguia's shown us he has power. Munguia's shown he could possibly be one of those capital G guys at middleweight. But I think our frustration is, it's great for Munguia. He gets a fight in 2022, that he gets to end the year off with a fight. That's a paycheck. It's near Christmas. But for us, the fans, we're just expecting a knockout. And worst case scenario, goes to decision. That's terrible. So I guess, 4 years we've had Munguia in meaningless fights? My hope is Munguia can be in a meaningful fight. And when he's in a meaningful fight once again, then we can reassess where he fits into the division.
Gotcha. Shout out to Chief Monkey Boxing with the $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. All right. Another interesting piece of news that came out is Anthony Joshua is talking about trialing Roy Jones as his trainer, a potential new trainer for him. Seems like this guy just continues to bounce around. He's always in that start over type mode. I want to start with you, D-Style. What's going on with Anthony Joshua with this trainer situation? And if he ultimately does decide to choose Roy Jones, would that be a good move? Would that be a good fit for him? Your opinion?
So let me preface it with this. So, typical Fury fan over here, but let me just correct you on one quick thing, okay? What I mean, he's always been the type to bounce around. That's not true. He's only switched trainers one time in his whole career.
He's always reinventing himself, I meant to say.
Okay, cool. Here's the deal, okay? He has an identity crisis at the moment. I saw a video not that long ago where it's titled like, he asked Bivol's trainer if he could train him. Like, what are you doing, bro? Stop. I don't get, like, there is no like trainer that's gonna fix everything. You know, like, it's not gonna happen. He needs to find someone who's obviously gonna train him and it's gonna stay committed to him. My issue with Robert Garcia always was, one, Robert doesn't really work with heavyweights. Second, Robert has a lot of commitments. He doesn't need somebody committed. He needs somebody that's going to be there, committed to him, and someone who has experience training heavyweights. I think that's what he needs. That's my opinion. He has an identity crisis. he's all over the place because he doesn't know what to do at the moment. But I just think it's like this. If he thinks he lost to Usyk because he didn't have the right trainer, then I just don't think there was. You could have taken Customato off the, you could have brought back, Emmanuel Stewart from the grave. He wasn't going to help you beat Usyk. Sometimes fighters just have your number. Usyk's got him on speed dial. It is what it is, right? So he is what he is at this point, man. Like it's you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You could tweak him a little bit, but he is what he is. He's a good fighter. He needs to just find someone that's going to stay committed to him, keep training hard, and your opportunity to become world champion again will come. When, I'm not sure, but it will come, but identity crisis.
I mean, just to elaborate a little further on the bouncing around thing, when he was looking for a new trainer, he had like 6 different guys he was like working out with and trying out with. And even when he did have a trainer, there's also been people have also had said in rumors that he'll have a trainer, but he'll still talk to other trainers and ask them for advice while he has his own trainer. So he's always like, I understand. Say again.
He's just a picky dude. He's like that dude.
No, I understand.
And he's like, well, what do you recommend? And then, let me ask the other waiter. Well, what do you recommend? You know what I mean?
No, I understand it's good to get different viewpoints and different opinions and different, outlooks and stuff like that. But when you got a trainer, you got to kind of subscribe to that guy and you got to dial in and you got to be totally committed to that guy. You too much indecisiveness, it seems to me, with Anthony Joshua. Lukey, what are your thoughts on Roy Jones as a potential trainer for Anthony Joshua? Think that's a good move?
I mean, I always look at trainers as kids that would buy new backpacks to high school every single year. Freshman year, they get a backpack. And sophomore year, they get a backpack. I had a backpack, the same backpack. I had a JanSport from 6th grade to when I finished high school, because it served a purpose. It didn't define me. And what I say with that is, it's pretty clear Anthony Joshua runs his own camp. He's not really listening to what these guys say. He lets them do what they do or what they do and what they say and all that. But then eventually he's like, you know what? I'm the big famous guy. I'm rich. Let me do my things that I like to do. And then that's what happens. And then the results happen. And if he loses, he fires people. We've seen this. It's an age-old story. The problem with Joshua is he's a really interesting fighter. He looks the part of a great heavyweight. He just can't fight like a great heavyweight. And it just didn't break out for him that the guys that were there weren't there for him to be the great heavyweight, because this era isn't that great at heavyweight. So he probably could have been the great heavyweight. He just didn't. He ran into Usyk and he was just too good for him. I mean, Roy's a great fighter and he's probably a great coach. But I just don't think that it matters. I think that Anthony Joshua just runs his own camp and that's it. Like, he's just going to do whatever he wants. There'll be like a 4-week period where he'll listen to Roy and then he just does whatever he wants to do.
Okay. Base, this is your man here, Anthony Joshua, right? What is going on here? You're in the know with Anthony Joshua. You guys are friends. You guys are friends, Base. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, because everyone in the UK knows each other. I don't know exactly what's going on. If the question is Roy Jones Jr. a good fit for him? I think mentality-wise, he might be, because I think Roy Jones is one of those kind of people that other fighters, like, they will respect. Like, you see all the achievements, 4-weight world champion, and at the higher weights where the jumps are a lot more astronomical than, lower down in the divisions. I mean, look, even what's his name? Chris Eubank Jr. is like, Roy Jones is the only person that I've ever chose to listen to, or like that he actually gives me information and I'm willing to receive it because he's Roy Jones. So from that perspective, he might be good for Anthony Joshua to have as like a confidant, or even maybe just someone to be as a part of his team that he can maybe just go and talk to for advice. But in terms of training, I don't think Roy Jones would benefit him, because even as a heavyweight, his style, there was nothing in his style that can translate to Joshua. He's nowhere near as coordinated as Roy Jones Jr. was. He's not as loose, languid. He's not as comfortable. He's not as calm. And he won't take the same chances that Roy Jones used to take, knowing that his natural athleticism was gonna, get him out of trouble if he was ever in a situation. So he needs probably someone that's gonna just get him back to front foot boxing, behind a very solid hard jab, behind a good straight right hand, and someone that can just help him find that spot for the devastating uppercut. I don't necessarily know who that is. Maybe someone like Maestro would say that someone like Mark Ramsey would probably be a really good trainer for him, someone that can just work on the front foot with him. Robert Garcia, that might work, just in terms of sort of that front foot boxing. Even as much as I don't necessarily like him as a trainer, someone like Abel Sanchez might work, just because it's about just being aggressive. Derek James, possibly even. Stay away from Ronnie Shields and Virgil Hunter. That's the only two that I would say not for you. But yeah, Roy Jones, I don't see it being a good fit, but spend some time around him and just understand the mentality that you need to be an elite fighter. Because right now it doesn't seem like he's got that mentality. It seems to have left him, and I don't know if he can get it back. Maybe he's too rich to get it back. Money changes people.
Was Rob McCracken really that bad though, Base? What was the reason for getting rid of him? What is your opinion on that?
No. The problem with Rob McCracken is that he's an amateur coach. Like, he's literally the Olympic amateur coach for Great Britain. So everything he teaches a very textbook amateur style. It's great for those competitions. It's very upright, 1-2, in and out. That's his combination. There's no real nuances to it. There's no level changing. There's no, dipping at the hips. There's no sort of rolling with punches. It's an amateurish style, and that's basically what he trains, and that's what he's known for. So even when he's training with Joshua, he's training the Olympic amateurs or some of the amateurs coming up as well. The only two people that have really flourished under him was Joshua and Carl Froch. Everyone else in that vein never really reached those heights. It's just because you need something a bit different in the pros.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was gonna come back at you with, well, Carl Froch was very successful with him, and Carl Froch is nothing like an amateur type style fighter, but it is what it is. There's always outliers to the rule, and I understand that.
Beeb, can I make a
absolutely
drunk comment? Okay. Carl Froch always looked like the villain in Harry Potter to me. What were they? The Slytherin? Am I the only one that feels like that? Like that if there was a draft of those guys, Carl Froch would be number one?
So disrespectful.
I mean, but like, let's be honest. Like, right?
Okay. I could see that a little bit.
It's only me.
I can see that a little bit. MC, what do you think of Roy Jones as the trainer? Y'all must have forgot.
I always thought that his move with Robert Garcia was like odd. The fact that he was flying him out every so often to like England. And like you said, he's like, Robert Garcia is really busy. So to me, that was weird. I never really found that to be a good situation. I do think that Anthony Joshua did good on his last fight against Usyk. He had improvements compared to his previous fight. So I will give him credit for that. And I think Roy Jones will be a great example as far as like, it's kind of hard to go tell Joshua, this is what you need to do. He, like you said, he's rich. He's already been a world champion. He's the face of British boxing, I think, still to this day. So nobody's going to come and tell me how to do my job when I've already been so successful. But guess what? There's a bigger badass than you, and that's Roy Jones. So you know what? You might have to take advice from him. And I think it's great that he's going to go out there and do that for him. I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of ends sour, because nobody wants to hear somebody else tell them what to do, right? So, but I do think he might make improvements if he's able to go with it, like fall through it. You know what I'm saying? Again, I don't really know where else he can go. He's already tried a lot of different places. He went to Eddie Reynoso. He went to Robert Garcia. I think he went to a few other places when he was here in America too. So I think he's already explored his options, and he probably felt that this is something that he should do. So I hope it works out for him. I like him. He's a nice guy.
Gotcha. Calix, what's up, man? I heard you got a tryout to train Anthony Joshua. What's going on? This guy's got everyone in the rotation. What do you think?
Look, everybody wants to train him. He's one of the big fish out there. The thing is, though, I don't think it matters much. And my take on it has always been, once a guy gets to a certain point in his career, he is who he is, right? So there are some tweaks you could do, and there are cases of fighters making adjustments late in their career and it working, like Freddie Roach with Miguel Cotto, that worked later on in his career, right? There are some exceptions to that rule, but I think once you get punched in the face, you revert back to who you were anyway once you've been a pro for so long. So Roy Jones, it could work. I just think it's got to be more of a mentality thing now other than X's and O's. And the Robert Garcia thing was never going to work, right? Because Robert Garcia was never going to stay over there for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, for every single Anthony Joshua fight. So he needed something sustainable. So perhaps this could be it. I don't know. Roy Jones doesn't have much else going on besides his commentary gig, right? And I'm sure he could do that over there virtually. It's not like he's training other big-time professional fighters. So, but otherwise, I just think you are who you are at this point, and I don't think it's going to matter much besides the mental aspect of it, right? Maybe being around a guy like Roy Jones, right? A past Hall of Famer who one of the greatest to ever do it. Possibly that could rub off on Anthony Joshua, right? But at this point, you're working with whoever you are at that point in your career. I mean, I don't know what else they can do, what adjustments they can make with a fighter like Anthony Joshua at this point. But Anthony Joshua was a live fighter against anybody at heavyweight. Still.
Yeah, he still got it. So the IBF orders Oleksandr Usyk to face Filip Hrgovic, and Eddie Hearn, Filip Hrgovic's promoter, is saying that Hrgovic is not going to step aside. He wants this fight. Do you think that this is going to stop the potential Usyk Fury fight, undisputed fight, from happening? Let's start with you, Base. Do you think this is going to be a roadblock, or do you think cooler heads will prevail and you think Hrgovic will probably take some step aside, maybe face the winner and end up being in an even bigger fight by fighting for undisputed instead of just fighting for, one title?
No, I mean, let's be real. He actually will be fighting for 3 titles.
Three titles.
Usyk, unless
Exactly.
Usyk actually vacates. I think realistically it will hold up undisputed, not because he won't necessarily take the step aside money, but if you think about it, there's going to be one of 2 options. Number one, either Usyk's going to have to fight him for all 3 belts, or he's going to have to vacate, because the IBF they've called it now. So now the undisputed can't happen unless he just takes step aside. There is no unification. Undisputed trumps mandatory when the mandatory's been called. Mandatory's now been called, so there's no issues.
Has it been called though?
They called it. They've directly said,
called?
yeah, he's the mandatory. You've got 30 days to, and they said, no, we don't want to even have that. Just take it to purse bids. That's what they've now said. So it's actually been called.
Wow.
So yeah, the only way you now get around that is you offer him step aside money. But if you look at it directly, and I'm going to have to, Eddie Hearn and Kayla Sauerland, they want a piece of undisputed. They don't want to necessarily fight one person who's got all of that, because then they're not one of the people that made history. So you fight Usyk, or you get him to let go of that belt. Yes, him and Fury will be consensus number 1 and number 2 in the division. But as long as one of those belts is missing, you're not undisputed, which means that now Hrgovic or whoever he fights now has that bargaining power, whether that's AJ, if that ends up being the fight or whatever. So ultimately, he's going to want to be in it because Hearn and Sauerland are going to want to be involved in undisputed. And if you think about all the times that the PBC, Shelley Finkel, Al Heyman, whatever, stopped Wilder from doing Undisputed, the whole Fury and AJ thing, and that got stopped, and Hearn never got that opportunity, and AJ never got that opportunity. They're not going to do them any favors now that they're not even involved in the fight. So they want to be back in that picture, and you do that by making sure that the mandatory gets called, and either that belt gets lost or you fight us for it, and then you hope that you at least win that. Obviously, if Oleksandr Usyk wins, then cool, you're free and clear again to do what you want to do. But I think they're banking on him vacating that belt so they can fight for a vacant one, Hrgovic against AJ or something like that, and then you've got to come back to us at least for the Undisputed fight.
Yeah.
You can't have that without us in the picture.
But that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that they're hoping for Usyk to probably vacate that way it could free up a fight between Hrgovic and Joshua? But
or another matchroom fight up, and just have it so that you can't have Undisputed without matchroom involved.
Let me ask you this question, Base. We're going to play devil's advocate here. We're going to give you a job. You're going to be Filip Hrgovic's advisor, right? You're his new manager. Congratulations, right? Now, if you're looking out for the best interest of Hrgovic, right? Why would you not take the step aside and fight for Undisputed? You're going to get paid twice, essentially, to fight once. And then you're going to end up fighting for Undisputed, which is going to be a bigger fight, which in turn is going to give you even more money than just a straight fight for the 3 belts, right? From a monetary standpoint and just all around, wouldn't that be a better decision? If you're the manager, wouldn't you kind of advise him to go in that direction, go that route? Wouldn't that be the better move?
If I was the manager, I would say no. And I'll tell you why I'll say no. Because in this scenario, you have to assume that the champion has got something better on the table than you, right? So that better option is Fury. You're supposedly going to make a lot more money with him. So now, if I have a belt, then when it comes time for the Undisputed, if that's really what you're after, you've got to come to me with a much bigger purse than I would have got if I took the step aside and then let you win that belt and then I fight you afterwards. I only get 20% of that. If I'm a champion, all of a sudden you've got to talk to me nice. So now I'm getting my guy the best possible deal by having him bet on himself, knowing that they're not going to take the initial one. I'll get a belt. I'll be able to negotiate harder at the table for that Undisputed fight.
Okay. So you would want to have some leverage going into the Undisputed fight instead of just going in it with nothing.
Yeah, I don't want to be a mandatory getting 15%. No.
Base, we're gonna give you a raise, man. That was a good answer. Calix, go ahead. I see you shaking your head.
Okay, so B, there's a couple of things going on here, and like the Godfather, I don't believe in coincidences. So why would the IBF order this right now with Undisputed on the table? I think they're looking at how the dominoes are going to fall. So Usyk goes ahead and fights Fury for the 3 belts. Let's just assume Hrgovic doesn't step aside and that happens. And they go through with that fight. And then Hrgovic fights for the vacant belt. Who will he fight for the vacant belt if Usyk doesn't fight Hrgovic? You know who it is?
Joshua.
No, it's Ruiz. So from what I understand, it's Ruiz. So let's assume Ruiz says, I'm not fighting Hrgovic. I have a bigger fight on the table against Deontay Wilder. The IBF knows that Ruiz is going to go fight Deontay Wilder. So the IBF is assuming that Anthony Joshua falls in line right after that.
That's what I'm saying. He'll end up getting the fight.
So they're assuming that he's going to fight Anthony Joshua. I think the IBF wants the belt in Anthony Joshua's hands. I think that's what's happening. So if you're Hrgovic's manager, I think you play the card. You don't step aside. You assume that the fight is going to fall to Anthony Joshua. You get a shot at Anthony Joshua for the IBF title. And then if you so happen to beat Anthony Joshua, which I don't think would happen, but if he did, all of a sudden you just upset Anthony Joshua and you have the 4th belt for the winner of Fury versus Usyk. So if you're the manager of Hrgovic, I think you would be crazy to tell him to take step aside money and let that belt go, especially assuming that sanctioning bodies are corrupt and you don't know what they're going to do down the line anyway. So I don't believe in coincidences. And I think that the IBF wants that belt in the hands of Anthony Joshua. That's just what I think.
Yeah, and here's another thing to think about. If Fury and Usyk fight and Fury was to win, you never know what that guy's going to do next, right? You never know if he's going to just vacate all the time. You don't know what's going to happen. So
He'll throw the IBF belt away.
Yeah, he's
already
probably
said that he'll dash that belt, so they don't want that.
Oh, that's because they stripped him before and
Yeah.
he's holding a grudge. Is that what he said? Yeah. So again, you guys made some excellent points. You kind of talked me out of my own position. This is what it's good. This is why it's good to be have you guys on the panel, man. But I understand what you're saying now, because Joshua's always been reliable. He's always fought his mandatories. So even if you flip Hrgovic's management team, you're saying to yourself, the Joshua fight's probably a more winnable fight than the Usyk or Fury fight anyways, right? But he's no disrespect to Joshua, but he's coming off of 2 losses. You don't know where his head is at. So yeah, this makes
more money as well.
He can make more money as well, because he's arguably still the money man in the division, even with Fury being the WBC or whatever, and Usyk have to have the 3. So yeah, I mean, you guys kind of laid it out pretty well right there. MC, what do you think? Do you think that this Undisputed fight is going to be put on the back burner now because of this IBF mandatory?
This fight has been in the back burner. Tyson Fury does not really seem interested to fight Usyk for the Undisputed. He really is not interested in it. We're getting a trilogy that we didn't even want in a few weekends. Like, why is that fight happening? People are still going to buy it. I don't know I'm probably going to watch it, right? Because I love boxing, but it really should have not happened. So that you can go on record to say that you're the first heavyweight to have 2 trilogies? That is not what we wanted.
It's not true anyways. Ali already fought 2 trilogies. He's wrong.
Can't even say that right. So yes. So then he's out there trying to sell us a 4th Wilder fight. Nobody wants. I personally, that's not a fight that I want either. So the only fight to be made is Usyk. Why is that fight not being made? I'm not sure. I think that they're both very mental game, Tyson Fury and Usyk. So I think he was trying to catch him remember he said, you got to fight me you got to sign the contract within 2 weeks. If not, I'm not going to fight you. And then that's how the negotiations, were you trying to catch him or something? I don't get it, right? So I don't think this hinders anything. If anything, I think this is good that they called him out and they finally said, you need to fight, that they called out Usyk and said Usyk needs to fight or whatever. So that would force other fights to happen. So I'm glad he did it. They can't keep holding it anymore for him.
Gotcha. Luca, you were shaking your head as well, man. What's your opinion on this whole thing?
First off, shout out my guy Calix Boxing. That's one of the guys in boxing I salute. I'm giving him big dog salute. He makes a lot of sense when he speaks, and I like people in boxing that make sense, because a lot of times
he's here. That's why
he's here. I mean, but boxing is the one sport where a lot of people don't make sense to me, because it's I'm a fan of a straight line leads to the destination. And boxing gives you a lot of wiggle rooms and a lot of that stuff. But I don't know, man. Hrgovic, he came off a really hard fight. We're starting to wonder how good he can be. Very offensive oriented fighter in a division where you definitely need some defense. Feels like if he fights Usyk, it's going to be all bad. And if he fights Joshua, it's going to be even worse. So, I mean, it just feels like he's going to be the guy that's going to be on the highlight reel. If we're being honest, right? He's the guy that's going to be the fodder to be like, oh my God, he beat this hot commodity. Let us sell you something.
Gotcha. Okay.
The interesting thing about it is he was the heavyweight version of Janibek, right? He was the guy that everybody was ducking that mandatory. And then you watch him fight Zhang, and it's like, man, that could have been, I think that could have, maybe he just had an off night, but I think a lot of those guys could have beat him. I don't know. Maybe it's an off night.
At one point, because so many guys turned down the mandatory slot, right?
I think it was 7 or 8 of them.
they resorted to asking the guy selling the popcorn at the stadium they wanted to see if he wanted to jump in there with him. They were running out of guys.
They went down the list and then they went back to the top again to see if anyone wanted to take it the second time round.
They did a snake draft.
Yeah. I thought Zhang beat him.
Yeah,
I really thought Zhang won the fight.
If you're doing any ethical ranking system, you have to rank Zhang above him because Zhang probably won that fight on a to me, it's mind-boggling that Michael Hunter never took the fight because Michael Hunter beat Martin Bakole, and to me, Martin Bakole is worlds ahead of Hrgovic, and Michael Hunter's a formidable opponent. It's just Hrgovic's a good fighter, but it's like we get sold these bill of goods. Oh my God, he's this guy that you can't fight, and then when they have an off night, not just do they have an off night, I feel like it damages these boogeymen mentally. Like they can't ever come back.
But you know what it is, Lukey? Is two things that's going on. One is we want to see a star and a boogeyman so bad that we just look for it. And it's like D-Style always says, it's like preordained syndrome or whatever it is. We're ordaining these guys earlier because we want badly to see it. That's number one. And then number two, you know, I just dropped a video tonight on my channel about fighter inactivity and how it's plaguing boxing. There's so little to go off of now that when a guy does have an off night, I can't even blame fans anymore that there's so little to go off of that we just naturally overreact because we're not going to see this guy likely on average. The top 50 pound for pound fighters are fighting once every 9.5 months. So we're not going to see this guy again for a while. So we don't have much to go off of.
One fight a year is what we're going on for these big fights. Like this is why the sport's in a messed up spot. Gervonta Davis fought one time. Errol Spence fought one time. Terrence Crawford's going to fight one time in December when I'm more busy about getting Christmas presents than I am about focused on boxing. Mm-hmm. Boxing's in a bad spot because guys are like, okay, what's the most minimal risk I can take? How little can I fight? And how can I prolong my financial benefit? That's great from a fighter perspective, and I appreciate fighters that do that. But you have to also fight for legacy, but because don't utter your name next to Joe Louis or these great fighters if this is the path you're on, because Joe Louis, Ray Robinson, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, these guys did not just necessarily take fights just straight up for money and do as little as possible. They also preserved the sanctity of this sport and made themselves legendary.
True. D, what do you think about this whole mess with the IBF?
I just don't think it's a mess. This is normal. There's a mandatory. You got to fight him. If Usyk's that dude, he beats Hrgovic, and we still get Undisputed. What's everybody panicking about? What do you think? What are you worried about? Is Hrgovic going to beat Usyk? Is Usyk the heavyweight champion? Was he the best on the planet or not?
I'll tell you what I'm worried about.
Do the fight. These guys get a mandatory spot. You don't like it too bad. So, no, hold on. It's my turn to talk. All right, B, calm down.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about.
But
Fury could retire.
Well, if he's going to retire, he's going to retire anyway. We cannot try to presuppose what this dude's going to do.
You have to. This guy's a ticking.
He can retire anyway.
He's a ticking bomb.
He can retire anyway, B. He can do it anyway. So we're not just going to wait and see we're on Fury's clock. If we do everything on Fury's clock, shit, we might as well be in Alice in Wonderland at this point. We might as well be in the Wizard of Oz at this point. Okay, there's not even a yellow brick road with this dude. No, like it's not a big deal to me that Hrgovic is, going to get a shot. It just isn't. If he ain't that dude who sticks in the box circles around him, and we keep it moving. Okay, it's as simple as that. Like I don't know what the panic's about. There is no panic. There is no problem. Okay, fighters fight. Okay, there's a ranking system. It's kind of crap. It's very limited what we have, but we go by what we have. But you got to do it. We can't sit here and complain. Oh, I saw some in the chat. Spence hasn't defended the IBF in 4 years against the mandatory. What are you trying to say? Are you saying we should do it or we shouldn't do it? Take a stand and just go with it. Hrgovic, okay, he had a bad night with Zhang, whatever, okay? If he ain't that dude, right, if he was exposed by Zhang as a hype job, then Usyk should be a piece of cake for Usyk, right? So if it's a piece of cake, he'll beat him, and we'll keep it moving. You guys you're just talking about how these guys fight every 9 months. When do you think, like, Fury's going to fight in December. You really think he's going to fight this dude in March? Does anybody really believe Fury's going to fight early next year against Usyk? Does anybody really believe that? Let's stop the nonsense. Just do the damn Hrgovic fight. If it's a piece of cake, if he's the hype job that everybody says he is, then it should be a piece of cake for Usyk, right? It should be the easiest fight in the world then. It's a tune-up then. And then late next year, we could do the Fury fight. And if it doesn't happen, boom, we haven't had Undisputed in like 20 years or some shit. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Like this idea that, let's not do any fights. Let's wait till the fight happens so we can get Undisputed. For what? It's not going to happen. It just isn't. Well, what do you guys? What don't you understand? Okay, when I say Fury doesn't want to fight this dude, what is it that people don't understand? Do I need to say it in Spanish? Tyson Fury no quiere pelear contra Usyk. Usyk le va a dar en la madre, le tiene miedo. Okay, I'm telling you right now. If I knew Chinese, I'll say it in Chinese. I'll say it in French. He doesn't want to fucking fight the dude. Okay, it's as simple as that. So what's the big deal? We went through the Klitschko era. They were giving all piñatas and all type of dude shots. Okay, Pulev got his shot against Joshua, and so did Takam. But oh no, let's not do any fights. No, everybody stand still. Let's do what we're doing at welterweight. Everybody stand still. Let's hold traffic. All right, because let's hope that Fury fights him in the Undisputed fight. If Fury really wanted it, he wouldn't have been fighting Chisora. He would have just done Usyk fight. But he's going to fight Chisora. And he'll be back like in 9 months.
Yeah, but Usyk wasn't going to be ready. He wanted to fight in April. That's what he said.
So what? Like the dude. So
why do you want to drag this out? Why do you want to drag this out? People aren't panicking? People are sick of these fights that no one wants to see. So we're just going to assume
that Fury's going to do something he's never done. Like he's going to fight 3 months later? Is that what you're telling me?
No, he's going to fight in December. You got January, February, March, April. 4 months.
He ain't going to fight him in April, brother.
Why not?
Because he's not. That's not what his track record shows me. It just isn't.
He did something similar before the first Wilder fight. I think he fought, but he did fight.
Yeah, but he's fighting like you know who he was fighting. Look at the dude he was fighting though. And like he wasn't getting like all I'm saying is this:
he's gonna fight Chisora, knock him out in 3 rounds, and he'll be ready to fight.
Like drag what out? Like when people say we're gonna drag it out, okay, he could fight Hrgovic, right? Well, he can't. Like Fury can't fight late next year. Like that's impossible. We can't do that.
Why do you want these fights that no one wants to see?
Yeah, let me answer that. Can I answer that question real quick? And on the surface, D-Style, I understand what D-Style's saying is
horrible point.
First of all, I understand the sentiment perfectly that
the worst point
Fury. It seems like Fury wants to stay away from Usyk. I agree with D-Style. I also agree with D-Style on the surface that fights are mandatory. But if it's so inconsistent with when they mandate it, when they don't mandate that's number one. But also when it comes to but Beeb, and we're gonna be on the same page with this, and I've been saying it for years now, is it just seems like once we get to the last chapter, it's like a book, and we're about to get to the last chapter. Finally, after 2 decades, we're gonna get an undisputed heavyweight champion. Finally. Oh no, mandatory. Oh no!
It's his fault. He endorsed this.
Mandatory.
He probably called the IBF. He probably called the IBF and asked him to do it.
He didn't have to fight Chisora, brother. That's his fault. It's all Tyson Fury's fault.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of it has to do with Tyson Fury. But what I'm saying is, it seems like every time we get close to it, they pull the rug from us. And this is why when D-Style says, "What's the point of dragging it out?" That's why it's like we're there. We're Fury versus Usyk, and then it's going to be we got to do a trilogy leading up to
it's like the movie Final Destination, whatever it's called. You know how they're destined to die? They were destined to never get undisputed. That's the truth.
That's the thing too, is it's to the point now where I have to ask myself, how important is undisputed really? And I've asked this question a lot on my channel, is once we get to undisputed, it's not sustainable to defend.
Yeah, it's a golden mirage, brother. It's a golden mirage. It's a mirage.
I don't care about Undisputed. I just want the fight because I think they're the two best. I don't care about the belts. I honestly don't.
I want an undisputed heavyweight champion. I want.
I don't care.
This is the bad.
I don't care about it.
You do care. You wait. You were just telling me, why are we delaying the undisputed fight? These style, you're terrible. And then I don't give a fuck about undisputed.
I have a different definition of undisputed than you do.
Maybe.
Ask me what my definition of undisputed is.
What is your definition of undisputed?
When the two best fighters fight each other, with or without the belts. That's undisputed for me.
No, that's not undisputed. Come on.
That's for me. You can't tell me
theoretically.
Shut it down. You'll never tell me what I can say is undisputed.
You're right, but that's not the official term.
That's not the official. I told you what I think is.
Theoretically.
I am not like you. I don't go with the grain. I go against the grain. I walk to the beat of my own drum. Okay, I have my own band.
Okay, drummer boy.
I have my own band. I have my own band.
I have my own.
You joined the school band.
Undisputed.
You joined the school band. I have my own band. All right, save it for Christmas. But anyways, here's the thing. Here's the thing, man. That's my definition of undisputed. I just want to see the two best fighters fight each other.
Look, I just want to make this point about the Golden Mirage.
Am I wrong, Base? Am I wrong, Base?
But let me just make a point about the Golden Mirage, and this is what Undisputed does, okay? It's how dumb people are. Like theoretically, right now, if we freeze time, everyone and their mother knows. Everybody knows that Usyk and Fury, and it's where this is where I agree with you, Beep. Hold on. This is the Golden Mirage, okay? We all know Fury, Usyk. Everybody knows this. Everybody. And if Usyk, let's just say hypothetically, it's like, fuck the IBF. I don't got to fight Hrgovic. I don't have to fight Hurt the bitch. I just got to drop this fucking belt. And then he says, okay, Fury, let's do it. And they fight, right? It's still the same fight. It still has the same fucking meaning.
Thank you.
But then you're going to have some fucking asshole on the internet, probably on Twitter. But it's not undisputed because they don't have the IBF belt. It's still the same fight. It's still the same meaning.
But it does mean something historically. It does.
But it would mean the same thing. It should mean the same thing historically in my hypothetical.
All right, D-Style. This is the perfect segue into our next topic. This is a perfect segue into our next topic. And Calix made a great point about inconsistencies, right? So why is the WBA ordering Hyun Mi Choi to fight Alycia Baumgardner? Why are they mandating an undisputed fight? And why did the WBC at one point in time mandate what fight did they mandate that was undisputed? I forget what it was. It was they were mandating Golovkin versus somebody for undisputed, whatever. So why do these sanctioning bodies so conveniently order undisputed fights when they want to? Why isn't Spence Crawford? Why isn't the WBA ordering Spence Crawford then? If they can order Hyun Mi Choi versus Alycia Baumgardner, right? Why aren't they doing that? So that with all due respect, that's what kind of thwarts your argument that you were making, the inconsistency. Calix, tell them,
that's
right?
what I'm saying. It just seems like they want to exercise their rules, whatever rules, when it's convenient for them. And we know, like I pointed out, why they're mandating the Hrgovic fight right now. They're just they're making the picture less clear. It's like, get to the fight. If we all know Fury and Usyk are the two best fighters, just make it easier. Make it to where if Fury ducks Usyk, that we all know it's a duck. Like, just make it clear. Get to the end of the book. That's all we're asking for. And as far as this case, but it just goes back to what I was saying about Undisputed earlier. It's like, once somebody becomes undisputed, you've got to make it easier for them to defend the 4 belts. And you got to do that by not giving them 4 different mandatories to exercise within 18 months or whenever their time limit is. And you got to do it to where you give them a smaller percent of the sanctioning fee, smaller percentage of sanctioning fee if they consolidate all 4 belts. So stuff like that. But you have to simplify things. We're going in a different direction where we're making everything complex. And it's my point to the heavyweight picture. It's like, what's the problem with delaying it? What's the problem with delaying it? How about we just get to the 2 best guys fighting? How about that? Like, I know it's a crazy idea. Like, I know it's a crazy idea, but how about we don't mandate number 1 versus number 12? Like, Hrgovic, none of us think he's a top 10 heavyweight as of right now. So how about we don't mandate that fight? I know he may be number 1 in your rankings, but in the real world, he's not anywhere close to number 1. So how about we just get directly to where we all want to go? Crazy idea, I know. But it's inconsistencies, them exercising whatever they want to exercise at whatever time they want to do it. It's just like, get to the point. But as far as this situation here, I don't know. I don't know how you mandate an undisputed fight. But I'd like to see it more. At least be consistent with it, though.
So do you think this fight is going to happen with Hyun Mi Choi versus Alycia Baumgardner? And do you think that the sanctioning body should order undisputed fights?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I just want to see them all come up with consistent rules and stick to them. That's what I want to see. So just do that. I do think the fight's going to happen because in female boxing, like we said, you're going to see the fights get made that need to get made because they need them to get made in order to get the ratings. So you're going to see that happen. But I just want consistent rules and stick to them across the board. That's all I want to see.
That's what I'm saying. D-Star, what do you think? Do you think that the sanctioning body should order undisputed fights? And what do you think of this fight between Baumgardner and Choi?
Look, first of all, I actually think it's a good fight. Choi ain't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are just counting her out. I'm not saying she should be the favorite, but I mean, she's been a champion for a while for a reason. But with that said, she's been a champion for a while for a reason because she's been kind of like holding that belt hostage. You know what I mean? And now she's being kind of forced to like step out of her comfort zone. But I have an issue with the mandating. The WBA mandating this is kind of interesting because usually when there's a mandate, the champion is getting 70%, the challenger is getting 30%. So what do you do here? Are you going 50-50? And then is Baumgardner gonna?
Well, that's if it goes to purse bids. That's only if it goes to purse bids.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But if she doesn't want to fight her, and it
goes to purse bids, yeah.
So what do you do when it goes to purse bids?
Yeah,
in that situation, because Alycia in this case is not the challenger; she's the other champion.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to see what would happen in that case. But with that said.
No, it's 50-50. They've confirmed that that's what it will be.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, Base.
But as far as them doing, look, I'm with Oleksandr. There's kind of like they're all over the place, and it all depends on the money, right? If you're Manny Pacquiao and you have the WBA belt, I mean, you could be inactive for 2 years and it won't really say much. You know what I mean? The WBC, I remember like they were threatening to strip Andre Ward, but like. A couple years before that, De La Hoya had the belt. After he beat Mayorga, he had the belt for a whole year, and nobody was telling him anything. Like Wilder didn't have to fight a mandatory for a while. Like they're very inconsistent, and it comes down to money. Like I think the WBA kind of knows that they're seeing this influx of like attention in the women's division, especially in the UK, and they're saying to themselves, all right, let's get some of this money. Choi, go fight Alycia Baumgardner. The fight will be a matchroom fight. And they'll offer you Choi's going to make probably the most she's ever made. The WBA makes a percentage out of that. They're going to get a percentage out of Alycia Baumgardner. That's what it is at the end of the day. Okay, everything to answer everyone's questions when they're like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they doing this? It's the money. It's the percentages. They're making a business decision. And they shouldn't. Because they have the audacity of calling themselves nonprofit. Oh, we're a nonprofit organizations. We don't make monies here. Like you know what I mean? But we do have our meetings in Hawaii. Like, okay, very convenient. But like they could do a vote through Zoom, but they have to do it in Hawaii. I mean, that tells you everything. Okay, so a vacation at Hawaii to do a vote, tells me everything. But with that said. I think these sanctioning bodies are just full of shit. Everybody knows this. They make it up as they go. They do whatever is convenient to them. That's what it is. They don't give a shit about these fighters. You know what I mean? That's why I think it's sad when I see these fighters at these conventions like kissing ass and shit. You know what I mean? Like going up to the mic and asking if they could go from number 6 to number 4, and okay, can you elevate me to this, and all this other dumb shit. Done with it.
Gotcha. Base, what are your thoughts on this? Do you like the idea of these sanctioning bodies stepping in and ordering undisputed fights? And what do you think of this fight?
I do like the idea of it. Yes, it's a lot easier to do in the women's division. There's not as many of them, and it's the quickest way to make money. Whereas sometimes in the men's, as much as you would want those undisputed, there could be a challenger or a rivalry that actually generates a lot more money than the other person who may hold the belt. So I can see both sides. Calix's point about potentially like the bodies coming together and creating like a unified ranking system to stop someone having to have 4 different mandatories, and maybe having one consolidated mandatory for the year or 2 or something like that. I think that's a great idea. Personally, it's something I've thought of in a different format previously. But sticking on topic, yes, the WBA should have ordered this fight. Hyun Mi Choi hasn't defended even against the mandatory in the last, I think it's 3 years, 4 years possibly. So it makes sense that, okay, if you're not going to defend against a mandatory, then we want you to defend against one of the other champions. And, it will be 50-50 because that's the lowest we can actually offer our champion, but she does have the other 3 belts and the Ring magazine, so we can't give you any more than that. And even Alycia will take that because ultimately undisputed is what she wants. And she knows that undisputed then guarantees her pretty much a Katie Taylor fight moving forward or something along those lines. So yeah, good move, and it should happen more, but it will definitely happen a lot more with the women, as we've seen with Erica Cruz and Amanda Serrano. Exactly the same thing. She's got the other 3 belts, so Cruz has been ordered to fight her 50-50 split if they can't negotiate something different.
Gotcha. Mookie, what are your thoughts on the WBA ordering this fight, and what do you think of this fight in general?
I mean, it's fine. Shout out my guy Paco Damian, who promotes Choi. Good for him, but this is what's supposed to happen. Good fighters are supposed to fight each other. It's not like, I think this is the bigger issue is we accept that the best fighters don't fight each other. Like, this is supposed to be the standard, Here's a world champion. Here's someone that's vying for other championships. Why don't they collide so we get some type of, we get understanding. Like, I guess that's my confusion as a boxing fan. If I watch college football, they have a system where I watch a playoffs and then I find out who's the best team in the country. Football, NBA, boxing, we basically just kind of have to word fight and have faith-based arguments around our favorite fighters. So for me, when I see this, it's just, this is what I feel the sport should be to be in its healthiest form.
Yeah. So Canelo's rumored to be coming back in May. I thought it was going to be against Bivol because his name was being thrown around, but now they're saying it's going to be a tune-up. What are you guys' thoughts on Canelo fighting a tune-up? So he said this was out of his mouth, a tune-up in May, and supposedly Bivol's going to be in September after that. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think you should even think about Bivol? Do you think you should just stay at 168? We'll start with you, D-Style. What are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Here come the jackals. Here come the hyenas. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he said that he's going to do a tune-up. Canelo always does this. He's bad for the sport. Like, you have all these guys out here. But look, he has surgery. I don't think he should go out of his way. I don't know if there's something lost in translation or what, but I don't know if the word tune-up should even be used. I would just avoid that word because a tune-up to him probably is it's probably a career best fight to a lot of guys out here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying. So oh, he might fight Zach Parker. Zach Parker, would be a career best fight for Andrade, for example. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Like, but if his intention is I want my rematch with Bivol, so I want to fight someone so I can be a little sharp and then go to the Bivol fight, it makes complete sense to me. You know what I mean? To be honest, and unlike Fury, I could take Canelo's word for it. I could see the path. You know what I mean? I could see if he says I'm going to fight in May, then in September, I could take his word for it because he's got the resume, he's got the consistency, and he's shown he can do that. You know what I mean? But I'll be honest, as a boxing fan, I do want to see him fight the winner of Plant versus Benavidez. I believe that will be Benavidez. You know, that's what I want to see. So I was hoping if he was fighting Bivol, it would be like in May, and then maybe he would fight the winner of the latter fight, you know, in September. But we can't have it all. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. But that would be my dream scenario. But whatever, you know what I mean? But I don't have an issue with it. Now don't get me wrong. If he's going to fight like Anthony Durrell in May, then yes, then obviously jackals and hyenas have at it, but I'll join them. But I just think a tune-up for Canelo in this case will probably be like a Ryder or a Parker or somebody like that. So I don't have an issue with it.
It's funny too because I always said he would fight John Ryder next instead of Bivol, but we'll see. See what happens. Lukey, what are your thoughts on this Canelo coming back in May against the quote unquote tune-up?
It's cool for me because like I get to make money off of it. Like people click on Canelo videos. It's highly monetizable. The fight's probably not going to be all that good, right? It's going to be Shane Mosley Jr. or John Ryder. I don't see Zach Parker beating John Ryder. Maybe he does. Maybe there's intrigue. Maybe he can really punch and then Canelo beats Zach Parker. But I mean, it's just, Canelo's an interesting figure that I've followed for 15 years probably. And it's boxing, you know, I'm all in on Canelo and also running a business of some sort, having a boxing platform. Canelo, as all of us know, brings in the most viewership outside of Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. So if he's fighting, that brings more eyeballs and interest to any opinions I have. So I'm always a fan of that.
Gotcha. Base, what are your thoughts?
I mean, D-Star took all my one-liners, so I mean, I've got nothing new to add to that. Yet, I agree. A Canelo tune-up is most other people's career best win. And to be honest, you know what? Even if it was someone like a Anthony Durrell or Andre Durrell or just anyone else in that mode, as at the end of the day, he's come off of a wrist hand surgery. He needs to test it out. Like we know that if he has this fight, he'll fight in September, and then more than likely, provided obviously doesn't get stopped, then he might fight again in December because he does like to do 2 or 3 fights a year, more time than anyone else. He's one of the most active out there, and if anyone deserves a quote unquote easy touch or a tune-up, his resume allows him that opportunity. So have at it. And if it is a Zach Parker or a John Ryder, those may sound like tune-up names, but they will not be the easiest of fights. They'll still be entertaining and they'll still be competitive. So go for it. Do you think?
Yeah, John Ryder is a good fighter. Jury's still out on Zach Parker, but I like John Ryder. Calix, what are your thoughts?
I agree with D-Style. Avoid the tune-up term if you're Canelo. Avoid that because if a tune-up, I think a tune-up considered what Canelo would consider a tune-up would be the Zach Parker John Ryder fight, or winner of that fight. And by the way, I think Zach Parker's going to win that fight. I think he's going to win that fight.
Yeah, good.
And I would love to see Canelo go over to the UK and fight. I would love to see more fighters from over here go over there and fight because great environments over there. I think more American fighters need to be utilizing that and broadening their fan base by going to fight over there. It's not like it's the moon over there. People act like, oh my God, they're gonna, like when Devin Haney fought in Australia. Oh my God, he went, dude. It's a flight. It's just a flight. It's not like he went to the moon. It's not like he needs a spacesuit, and there's gravity there. All right, it's not that big of a deal. Just go over there and fight. And then on top of that, that's a good win if he beats Zach Parker. That's a top 10 win. That's not a tune-up. And then you segue into the Bivol fight. But I actually think the easier road for Canelo would be to go the PBC route in 2023 and fight Charlo in May. And then you fight likely Benavidez in September, because I just think 10 times out of 10, Bivol beats Canelo. I hate to say that, but I just think Bivol is all kind of wrong for Canelo. And he's all kind of wrong for pretty much anybody. That guy is an absolute animal, defensive wizard, one of the most versatile fighters in the sport, if not the
Liquid
most.
metal.
So I just think he's all wrong for Canelo. But I just think Canelo, after the fight with Bivol, he said it can't end this way. And I knew it right there. He's going to fight him again. He's not going to be able to let it go. It's like Beeb. It's like the movie Heat. Remember Heat? He couldn't.
Oh, I love that movie.
Away. He
couldn't walk away from Wayne Grove.
All he had to do was walk away with his fiance, and he couldn't walk away.
He had the suitcase, Calix. He had the girl.
And what I just want to add something here, and I'm hearing this from Canelo fans, right? Saying things like, "Oh, I can't believe Canelo's going to do this. This is a dumb." They use words like dumb, like stupid. He's an idiot for doing it. Let me just, and it's not just Canelo fans, but I'm just people saying this. That's the problem with boxing.
Yeah.
Right. Like this mentality that fans have. Like when Tim Tszyu versus Jermell Charlo was announced, I saw fans, oh, Tim Tszyu is an idiot. Well, he's so stupid for taking his fight. He's going to get destroyed. Like, well, you know, if every fighter thought that way, no fighter will ever dare to be great. Like if Muhammad Ali just listened to everybody, oh, you're an idiot, you're going to fight somebody, listen, he would never have been great. You know what I mean? And I don't fault fighters for daring to be great, for trying to do something great, even if we don't think they can do it. I praise fighters for that. I don't talk down to them, and I don't call them stupid and shit like that. Canelo's not stupid because he thinks he wants another go. He wants to go. He's like, okay, or you got me this time. Let's do it again. That's what competitors do. Okay, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what I want from all fighters. To have that need, even if we don't want to see it, to be like, oh, I want that again. Everybody laughing at Plant. Oh, Plant, come on, Plant, you're stupid. You think you're going to be Canelo? So what? Plant's supposed to think that way. He's supposed to think, yo, I want my get back, and I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get that get back. Because in my heart, I believe I could beat him. Fuck it. So that's what helped make this Benavidez fight happen. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That's a great point.
It's good points. Very good points. Excellent. Yeah, I don't see why anyone would be mad at Canelo right now, because he's always been that guy to give you the big fights. It's not like he's not going to fight a Benavidez somewhere down the road, or even if he fights Bivol and he loses again, but you know the fight's not one-sided or whatever. On paper, the first fight was 115 to 113 with all three judges, so it is what it is, man. So I mean, if he fights Bivol again and he fights close, that Benavidez fight will always be there, depending upon if Benavidez beats Plant, which I think he will. But great show, guys. Thank you, everyone on the panel. Thank the chat. Always a pleasure having everyone. Lukey, Calix, Base, D-Style. Till next time, guys. Have a great one. Peace out.